Kia ora koutou, ko auraki te manga, ko waitaki te awa no takapo ahau. Ko Simcox tōku whānau, ko Craig tōku matua, ko Carol tōku whaia, no Jared Simcox tōku ingoa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, hello. My mountain is Aoraki Mount Cook. My river is Waitaki. I live in Lake Takapo. My family's name, my whānau, is Simcox. My father's name is Craig. My mother's name was Carol. My name is Jared Simcox. Thanks for listening. It's nice to meet you. I'm the Kaya or business manager here at the Dark Sky project in Lake Takapo. What does that mean? Well, my job is to administrate our business here, and our business does a few different things. We go up to the University of Canterbury Observatory on Mount John or Otahiwai, and through those we use powerful telescopes to observe the night sky down here in the southern hemisphere. We also take people through our indoor cultural experience. It's called the Dark Sky Experience, and we talk about Māori astronomy but through a modern lens, and we introduce people to some of the ancient wisdom, language, the traditions and the knowledge that our Māori ancestors possessed, and we share that with our visitors. Look, cultural understanding in New Zealand is understanding that New Zealand is not a homogenous place. We don't have one type of visitor, we don't have one type of customer. We have an extremely diverse portfolio of residents, of people that would call themselves Kiwis, and also visitors. Takapo is a place where before COVID, 88% of our customers were coming from mostly Central Asia, followed by Northern Europe, and then America and Australia behind that. So I think you have to understand your customer, you have to understand how to communicate with them and how to tell your stories in a way that makes sense to them. And cultural diversity is not so much about having a broad gambit of ethnicities represented within your business, but a broad gambit of understandings on how we interact, how we talk to each other, how we share our stories. So I think that's absolutely critical. And in this ultra-connected world that we live in, where, you know, if it wasn't for the COVID virus, you could very quickly get up, travel to the other side of the world and hope to have an enriching and authentic experience. And if you don't understand the person you're talking to and why they might be interested in what you have to say, you're going to really struggle to engage with them. And so for that reason, I think cultural diversity and cultural understanding is absolutely essential to forming those meaningful relationships with manahure or visitors. So diversity in the domestic market was quite surprising to us. And I can give you an example. We presumed coming out of lockdown and as the business reopened, which was in December of last year, that we were largely going to see European visitors from the major city centres. We were going to communicate with them in one language, which was English, and they were going to fit a particular profile. And we were actually wrong in making that assumption. We found that we had a number of visitors that were not native English speakers. So for example, we very quickly had to recruit a Mandarin and Cantonese speaking night guide, because you've got to bear in mind that you can be a New Zealand citizen and English can still not be your native language or your first language. So we had to accommodate for these people, and we had to accommodate for them really, really quickly, because the demand was still there, and these are still Kiwis, but they're Kiwis that don't speak English as a first language. We realised we had Japanese speaking customers, and so we redeployed one of our Japanese speaking guides. We have family groups that were coming through that are from Central Asia or India, and again we had to adapt to accommodate their needs, because you don't just have a language need necessarily, you also have a cultural need. So how people prefer to travel, group sizes, family units, all sorts of things. So the idea of a domestic customer in the sort of homogenous sense was absolutely untrue for this business, and we had to adapt pretty quickly. I think it's important to use what might be considered a little bit of downtime to learn about your customers, to develop that cultural understanding, because this isn't going to last forever. And in New Zealand, I think particularly, there was so much demand for people to come and visit, to earn that bragging right about visiting New Zealand, that you didn't really have to understand your customer particularly well in order to gain their custom. I think on the other side of this, people will be considerably more discerning, and I think they should reasonably have an expectation that we know how to welcome our visitors. So if you've got a little bit of downtime, I'd be spending it getting to know your customer, because I tell you what, If I visit a place and they can welcome me in my own language, they understand my cultural needs, they understand maybe some of my spiritual needs. You know, that's a really good example, is how do we welcome people that perhaps might not be familiar or comfortable with how we operate in a Western European society. How can we appeal to those guys? How can we accommodate for them? How can we do things like make sure we serve food that people like to eat? That's a great example. We used to have lots and lots and lots of South American visitors here, heaps. They are very likely to come back. So in our restaurant manager's Argentinian, our second chef is Chilean, our head chef is Uruguayan. On a Saturday night when everyone finishes work, the South American community descends on the Dark Sky project, and that's because we've got a late license. So we become a drop-in centre, and we would do a couple of hundred empanadas in an afternoon, or an evening should I say. And that's because our team understands how to appeal to those guys and how to make this feel like home for them. When we have visitors come from Auckland that are Mandarin speaking, for argument's sake, they have really specific dietary needs, or wants should I say, so we cater for that, and therefore they come and visit us. So the moral of the story is the day will come soon enough where we need to appeal to and cater for visitors from all over the world. And if you had a bit of time to think about it now, I'd be thinking about how you can meet the needs of those people, because it will benefit you quite measurably in the long term. And that measurement will be your bottom line.